of the tablet aligning with a subtle gold hue goes all the way around, though you'll notice most how thin this tablet is. 6.6 millimeters thick makes this one of the thinnest tablets around, beaten only by the Sony Xperia Z2 tablet. In portrait mode, the speaker grills are found on the top and bottom of the device, though this could be considered the sides when in landscape mode. And on the right side, you have the power button and the volume rockers above the micro SD card slot. Down on the bottom are the micro USB port and the headphone jack. The back takes on the material choice of the Galaxy S5 smartphone, the dimpled backing that is not removable. Added onto this rather controversial design choice are a couple of circles that take the plastic nibs that attach the various cases to the tablet. It's really the thinness of this tablet that dictates the handling experience, which is actually pretty great. Gripping the tablet in one hand is not hard at all, and reaching elements on the screen is pretty easy even in typing. Holding the Tab S without activating the screen is also not that difficult in landscape mode, as the bezel up top gives a safe spot for resting your thumb. Ultimately, Samsung might not have changed the formula much at all, but at least in this iteration of their tablet, they've really gotten it down, making it a very sleek device that is actually not too hard to handle. Of course, the marquee feature of this tablet is the addition of a Super AMOLED screen. This is a high-resolution display at 2560 by 1600, yielding 359 pixels per inch. While we have seen high-resolution displays on tablets before, this may arguably be one of the highest quality ones out there. The colors are incredibly punchy, as is the case with AMOLED, leading to a high contrast that definitely helps when you're consuming media. Binge watching a whole season and a half of Breaking Bad was incredibly enjoyable here, as such a high-spec display on a pretty accessible body for this size made for one of the most enjoyable experiences I've had on a tablet. And in other uses, like when using the Paper Garden, great brightness and wonderful colors make the magazine viewing experience about as good as it can get without looking at the actual magazine itself. You can cater the color temperature to your liking, and it is possible to put it on an auto mode. In my experience, however, this is one of those features that you will not really notice, especially if you keep using your indoor lighting with the Tab S. Underneath all of this is a performance package that you would want powering your Netflix, your games, and anything else you might throw at this version of TouchWiz. The Exynos 5 Octa is Samsung's tried and true in-house processing package, and brings the Mali T628 along for graphics processing. Aside from any loading hiccups in areas like the magazine UX, or when apps like the Paper Garden are trying to load all of the things at once, I ran into very few instances of stutter and lag that kept me from getting around. Blasting through applications using the recent app screen brought no issues at all, although of course you can have the multi-window available if you really need to multitask, and it works about as well as you would expect from a Samsung flagship. Though media consumption is something that you will likely do most on here, the Galaxy Tab S is capable of taking on everything from web browsing to remote PC access with ease. Now, Samsung has always made it a point to put in as much as they can in their devices, and the Tab S line is no different. Especially if media is your main usage for this device, the inclusion of micro SD expandability is always welcome. LTE versions of both the Tab S tablets will be made available, so if you need mobile internet access, well, those are the choices for you. And as far as connectivity goes, NFC is the only real hole here, but you do still get things like Wi-Fi, Bluetooth of course, and also an IR blaster, making this one of the better second screen experiences that you can have when watching TV. The finger scanner actually makes it onto the tablet line, embedded into the home button and set up the exact same way as it was in the Galaxy S5. The dual speaker setup is very welcome and is great to use on the fly, though it still isn't the loudest or the richest sound available. The sound in the headphones sounds expectedly good though. And then there's the battery, which I decided to test by really taking on what this tablet was marketed to do. So I got on Netflix on Wi-Fi and played Breaking Bad straight for as long as I could. I got down to 25% battery life in just under 8 hours, but the better way of measuring that is by counting the number of episodes I got through. 15 episodes of a spectacular 1-hour show. So, there's no doubt that you'll be able to binge watch up to 2 seasons of a typical show no problem here, and if you lower that screen on time, you'll have one hell of a long-lasting tablet. The camera setup on a tablet is often a requirement rather than a defining feature. That continues to be the case even on this, a so-called flagship tablet. But that doesn't mean Samsung doesn't try to make it as good as it can. You can see it in the settings, as features like software stabilization for photo and video, as well as modes like HDR and burst modes, bolster the 8-megapixel optics that actually default to 6 for 16:9 aspect ratio photos. Picture quality isn't too bad, though it pales in comparison obviously to its flagship smartphone counterparts, unsurprisingly. Colors do pop a bit and detail is decent in good lighting, but it's really nothing to write home about. I don't see anyone consistently using the camera of a tablet still, unless in this case you're perhaps wanting to share what you're eating while you're binge watching Orange is the New Black. And finally, in software, we might see a familiar operating system that continues from Samsung's Pro line of tablets, but there are a couple of additions here that sweeten the pot. First off, despite the new circle motifs that you can find mainly in the quick settings area and a flatter look overall in the colors, this is still TouchWiz, but has been given a second home screen experience with the Magazine UX. The Magazine UX is largely the same as the one found on the Pro line, and is a grid made up of specialized widgets. It's still a very lean ecosystem, providing only so much functionality that has to piggyback either on Samsung's own applications or on Flipboard as the backend to any news or social media sources that are available. We didn't really find it a game changer by any means, as it didn't really penetrate the day-to-day routine well enough. But then there are applications put in to not only help showcase the Super AMOLED capabilities, but also to help consolidate your experience across devices. Side sync isn't necessarily new, but it's still an interesting way of accessing your phone when you don't want to go reaching for it. And it doesn't just give you your notifications, it gives you full access. It is not the smoothest implementation, but for a number of smaller general tasks, it does get the job done. Built-in remote PC capabilities tie into your Samsung account to get you remote access to your computer at home, and it works quite well. When used on the same Wi-Fi network, it was actually really smooth, and I imagine that with a fast enough Wi-Fi connection, you can get similar performance outside of your home network. And finally, there is the Paper Garden, the magazine front end that brings a print-replacing way of getting your magazine subscriptions. Downloading a couple magazines was easy enough, and you get the entire publication, complete with every single ad, and catered to a touch interface. I found the Super AMOLED screen did justice to the magazine zeal, making text easy to read and pictures enjoyable to view, though I will admit, at times I didn't always know I had to scroll down to read the rest of the page. It's Samsung's gateway to further partnerships with companies, but if you're a magazine reader, you may greatly benefit from this digital way of reading the rags. Ultimately, TouchWiz is, well, still TouchWiz. It does come with more features on here, especially ones that are more catered to the tablet experience, but all of those features can tend to be either useful or not so useful, but that's something we expect from Samsung already. And so the Galaxy Tab S 8.4 will come in at the price of $399, while its bigger brother, the 10.5-inch Galaxy Tab S, which I will be reviewing very soon, will come in at $499 instead. While its main competition includes every other 8-inch tablet in Samsung's camp, the Tab S is the flagship and deserves the title because of how much it offers over them. The LG G Pad does come to mind, and with its somewhat lower price point, it also comes with lower resolution. But the true budget tablet is still the Nexus 7, which for a much lower price does provide lower specs overall, but can still provide a comparable media experience across the board, despite losing a lot of features in the transition from TouchWiz. None of these competitors have the Super AMOLED screen, however, which, along with the magazine and media partnerships that it does bring, could be enough of a trump card for some. And so, there you have it, the Samsung Galaxy Tab S 8.4. I'll admit I've been a little disillusioned with tablets as of late, especially as our smartphones continue to grow. While I do love a large screen experience, that's what my 60-inch TV is for, and I still get enjoyment from, let's say, 5-inch screen phones. But Super AMOLED isn't hard to get caught up in, and with the sharper, higher resolution, quality screen, it makes all media quite fun. Ecosystem consolidation might not necessarily be perfect yet, but it's taken a step forward with built-in remote PC access and side sync. And I'm not much of a magazine reader, but if I was, the Paper Garden would be a great alternative to the paper editions. I love the battery life that can go for at least a couple seasons of a TV show, and the overall package proved an enhancement to the typical watch-in-bed experience. Is my fire for tablets rekindled? Perhaps not completely, but the Galaxy Tab S 8.4 is definitely Samsung's best foot forward in the tablet game thus far, and I will admit that